Afternoon and welcome to a special edition of 7 News on this historic day. 8 days after Prince Phillips' death, he will be formally farewelled by the royal family and the world. In 3 hours, his coffin will be moved to the inner hall of Windsor Castle. The Duke will then be laid to rest in a low-key affair in keeping with his wishes for a no-fuss funeral. A national minute of silence will be observed across the UK before the service begins at St George's Chapel in Windsor.
This is a live shot of Windsor Castle where the final preparations are being made. The Duke will then be buried in the castle grounds of the Queen's favourite home, a fitting resting place for her consort of 73 years.
We have special coverage throughout the evening, live from key locations across the UK. We begin with Europe Bureau Chief Hugh Whitfield at Windsor. Hugh, the funeral will be smaller in scale but still a fitting royal goodbye for a man who devoted his life to service.
Well, Ange, the funeral and the ceremonial proceedings leading up to it, all meticulously planned by Prince Philip, will be the epitome of the Duke of Edinburgh, with so many personal touches, whether it's the hymns that draw on his Greek Orthodox heritage, the command for battle stations, a salute to his naval service, or the Land Rover that will carry his body. The Duke spent 16 years designing it, constantly refining it. But the focus today too will be on a monarch who has lost her husband of 73 years. The Queen will be surrounded by her family, just 30 of course in the congregation due to COVID regulations. They will be an intimate-sized congregation dwarfed by a vast 550-year-old chapel. Officiating today, the Dean of Windsor and the Archbishop of Canterbury.
She's the Queen. She will behave with the extraordinary dignity and extraordinary courage that she always does. And at the same time, she is saying farewell to someone to who she was married for 73 years.
And Hugh, there will also be a lot of eyes fixed on William and Harry reuniting to honour their grandfather.
Well, Ange, there has been so much drama surrounding this family over the last couple of months, whether it is Prince Andrew's personal crises in his personal life or William and Harry, as you say, who have been at the centre of a feud now for 13 years. Harry, of course, returning from his home in California. The brothers will be separated for much of the service and the ceremonial proceedings. When they are walking behind their grandfather's coffin, when it is loaded on that Land Rover, they will be divided by their cousin, Peter Phillips. And then when the princes walk inside the chapel, Prince William will be walking alongside Peter Phillips. Prince Harry will be walking alongside the Earl of Snowdon, who is Princess Margaret's son. Now, the reports that we hear from inside the palace is that the Queen has done her best as she has signed off on these plans that have had to be tinkered with because of COVID, that she's tried to bring down the temperature, to bring a sense of calmness to proceedings, hoping that the focus will not be on the drama, but on Prince Philip. Ange.
Thank you, Hugh Whitfield.
In London, people will be taking to the streets and pubs paying their respects to the Duke. Sarah Greenhalgh is live at Buckingham Palace, and Sarah, the nation is coming together to celebrate the life of the Prince.
Mike, good evening. Officially, this country is still in a period of national mourning, and at 3 p.m. this afternoon local time, people right across the UK will pause and observe a nationwide minute's silence to remember the Duke's 99 years of life. During that period, all planes will be stopped from taking off and landing at Heathrow Airport, and a number of sporting matches and other events today have been rescheduled so as not to clash with the timing of the Duke's final farewell. But as you say, people are also very keen to celebrate his life and his incredible devotion to service, and they will be doing that at home and out in public. This is the first Saturday of 2021 of relative freedom here in England, the first Saturday where shops, restaurants and outdoor pubs are open after months of COVID-19 lockdowns, so people will be raising a glass to the Duke. And when you look back at all the personal tributes from his family this week, one in particular seems particularly relevant from Prince Harry, where he said that if his grandpa, Prince Philip, was here listening to all these lovely things being said about him, he probably would have been holding a beer and saying words to the effect of, "Oh, do get on with it." So you'd have to imagine the Duke will be quite pleased with how people will honour him today.
Before the funeral actually starts, We'll observe the minute's silence, and at the end of that we'll toast him. We'll, have a glass of beer or Bucks Fizz or what have you, and then we can all watch the service again together.
It's a big piece of history, and I think it's it's something to talk about and reminisce with your grandchildren.
And Sarah, we all know the UK is still well and truly in the grips of the pandemic. What kind of challenges has that presented when it comes to marking an occasion of this magnitude?
Yeah, Mike, COVID-19 has affected every element of this funeral, much like it has every aspect of all of our lives over the past 12 months. Everything from the guest list for those attending, reduced from a congregation originally of about 800 people, including world leaders and dignitaries, down to just 30 close family members. There's also no crowds today. There is no public element to this funeral. Under the original plans, we would have seen thousands of people flocking to Windsor, lining the streets there and here in central London for a military procession, but there will be none of that. Instead, millions of people will be watching the service at home.
OK, Sarah, thank you. 7 News will have special coverage across the evening with our next bulletin at 6 o'clock, and we'll take you live to the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral with a broadcast from Britain's ITV at 9:45 p.m.